Governing Board of the Delta State Oil Producing Areas Development Commission convenes for its April board meeting with the approval of immediate reinstatement of 14 staff members. State government restates its readiness to collaborate with youth in the state in a bid to put an end to drug abuse. JAM directs all CBT centers to arrest parents of candidates found near any of their facilities during the 2024 UTME examination. And abroad, European Union agrees to expand sanctions on Iranian producers of drones and missiles. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Delta TV main news. At 8, I am Jude Agbayeke. The state government has restated its readiness to collaborate with youth in the state in an effort to put an end to the worrisome incidents of drug abuse in the society. The Executive Assistant to the Governor on Communications and Chief Executive Officer of the Delta State Orientation Bureau, Dr. Latimer Ogenesiwe, stated this quietly in host to the executive members of the Delta State University Medical Students Association, DOMSA, in its office in Asaba. Esther Oputa reports.
Dr. Ogenesiwe, represented by the Director of Administration in the Orientation Bureau, Mrs. Kate Olika, said the Governor Sheriff Oborowori administration did not take lightly issues of drug abuse among youths, as it had a damaging effect on their health and behavior and in turn negatively impacted the society at large. He said that was why the Orientation Bureau was collaborating with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, and other relevant partners to rid the state of drug abuse. The executive assistant pledged to partner with the medical students in their planned outreach for selected communities in the state, among other activities geared towards safeguarding and improving the health of the people.
Very important to encourage the ones that are positively minded. So he said I should welcome you, and I should also say that he is willing to collaborate with you via the office in any aspect of it.
Earlier, the president of the Delta State University Medical Students Association, DOMSA, Mr. Gideon Moemifo, lauded the efforts of the state government in the fight against drug abuse and declared the intention of the association to expand its outreaches beyond the hospital setting under the theme Doctors Beyond the Clinic, with the aim of empowering medical students in the state with skills and knowledge for community engagement and income generation. The DOMSA president solicited the support of the Orientation Bureau in its forthcoming drug abuse awareness campaign, among other activities aimed at enhancing public health and safety.
Having computer experts also in our midst, we are currently developing a medical tailored AI, artificial intelligence, the first of its kind in Nigeria, to enhance our research efforts in Delta State and even beyond, as well as promote the rate of learning in medical school.
Other members of the delegation spoke on the scope of the medical outreach, which will include free medical checks and distribution of drugs.
A particular day, we'll be having a symposium talking about drug abuse, mostly drugs that are used for parties and the ones that are usually influenced by peer pressure.
To reach out to the community, to be able to help them in their various health challenges that they are having. The outreach will include testing, blood pressure, drugs, and even eye checkup. So we hope that the government will be able to support us any way they can, especially through finance, because if we don't have enough resources and enough funding for these outreaches, we will not be able to properly carry out these things.
Esther Oputa reporting.
The state government has again expressed unwavering commitment and readiness to enforce compliance with subsisting laws on environmental sanitation in all 25 local government areas of the state to enhance clean environment and healthy lifestyle. Chairman of the Task Force on Environment, Chief Gospel Asu, who gave the assurance yesterday as the White Speaker as a guest on the Voice of Delta Public Enlightenment Program, Orientation Panorama, said Governor Sheriff Oborowori had prioritized clean environment to keep Deltans healthy, active, and productive. He said the task force on the environment, comprising 315 environmental marshals, security agents, and vigilante groups, will enforce compliance through arrest, prosecution, and payment of fines, adding that landlords, business premises owners, hotel proprietors, and legal occupants of residential buildings must register with the government-accredited private sector partners for the proper evacuation of dirt and waste going forward. Chief Asiwo warned that the task force on environment was no respecter of persons and would follow established procedures to enforce compliance and take steps further to arrest, prosecute, and even seal filthy and dirty premises, saying the state governor had charged the task force to ensure a clean Delta state. He warned residents dumping refuse indiscriminately and in unauthorized places at all hours of the day that there will be no hiding place for them, as local vigilantes have been directed to apprehend deviants and hand them over to law enforcement agencies or the task force on environment for prosecution and payment of fines. Chief Asiwo reiterated that no landlord, hotelier, legal occupants of residential properties, members of market associations, or defaulters of environmental laws were permitted to pay fines or monies into the private bank accounts of any environmental marshals or members of the task force on environment or any government official. He stressed that all fines and monies were to be paid directly to the government treasury under the supervision of the Commissioner for Finance in the State Ministry of Finance and Accountant General's Office, charging residents and landlords to report any unlawful conduct of any environmental marshal to the task force, as it did not condone any act of criminality, and marshals have been trained to adhere strictly to operational procedures and code of ethics. He similarly cautioned that no landlord or legal occupiers of premises were permitted to assault any member of the task force or environmental marshals, saying it was unlawful and attracted criminal prosecution of offenders. The task force chairman appealed to all residents to join hands with the state government to keep the state clean. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has said the government could resort to inviting the military to bring a former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, before the Federal High Court in Abuja to face trial for the 80 billion naira money laundering charges pending against him. Mr. Bello, who completed his tenure as Kogi State governor on January 27, was scheduled for arraignment on 19 charges of 80 billion naira money laundering charges before the court today. The arraignment was to take place before a judge of the Federal High Court in Abuja, Emeka Nwite, but Mr. Bello was absent, stalling the scheduled arraignment. The judge had yesterday issued a warrant of arrest against Mr. Bello based on an ex parte application filed by the EFCC. The anti-graft agency made futile efforts to effect his arrest at his residence in Abuja yesterday. At today's proceedings, EFCC's prosecuting counsel, Kemi Pinheiro, said efforts by the EFCC to arrest and serve the pending charges on Mr. Bello were thwarted by the current governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, who was said to have sneaked Mr. Bello away in his official vehicle. Mr. Pinheiro, a senior advocate of Nigeria, leading Jibrin Kutepa, also a son for the prosecution, said a bloodbath was averted on account of the anti-graft agency's professionalism in handling the standoff between EFCC operatives who were trying to arrest Mr. Bello and the police officers attached to the residence obstructing the former governor's arrest. The prosecuting lawyer clarified that while Mr. Ododo enjoyed immunity from prosecution, his predecessor, Mr. Bello, had since lost his immunity and must be brought before the court. Referring to Section 12 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, Mr. Pinheiro said the military will be invited, if need be, to produce Mr. Bello in court. Mr. Bello's lawyer, Abdul Wahab Mohammed, had earlier argued that his client was not in breach of any court order, citing an order of a high court in the local yard, the Kogi State capital, restraining the EFCC from arresting and detaining him. The defense lawyer also argued that an appeal on the suit was pending at the Court of Appeal in Abuja. The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has initiated a campaign to enforce price display and quantity compliance at supermarkets throughout Abuja. The commission started this at 42 Supermarket, Wuse 2, Abuja on Thursday. This move is a direct response to concerns raised by consumers about the rising cost of goods, which go against the recent strengthening of the naira. The commission said price discrepancies remain a significant issue. It emphasized that consumers have the right to be informed of the prices of items they intend to purchase. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has directed all computer-based test center owners to arrest any parent found near any of their facilities during the 2024 UTME exercise. The registrar of the bar, Professor Isaac Oloyede, who gave the order at a visual meeting with operators and owners of the CBT centers, said the step was to prevent some parents from intruding into the conduct of the exam, adding that candidates or parents who breach the directive will be disqualified from writing the exam. Professor Oloyede explained that the measure was necessary as it had been discovered over time that some intruding parents were facilitators of the examination infractions, while others had, by their actions, disrupted the board's examination past, while giving room to some misfits who disguise themselves as parents to inflict. Registrar said the 2024 UTME examination will take place in 700 CBT centers across the country, noting that the board expected a seamless exercise. In a bid to address the recurrent collapse of Nigeria's power grid, the federal government has deployed a new technology to detect and respond to sudden drops or dips in power generation across the country. A statement by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, signed by its spokesperson, Mrs. Ndidi Mba, said the new technology was deployed to effectively manage the transmission network and the national grid. The statement said although Mendo's grid collapse was caused by a fire incident, gas shortage for power generation and vandalism of power infrastructure was also a recurrent cause of grid collapse in the country. It added that the innovation stood as a testament to the agency's commitment to advancing grid management capabilities. The National Assembly has again postponed the resumption of plenary to April 30 to allow for the full renovation of both main chambers. The Senate and House of Representatives have shifted resumption after its Easter and Eid recess to April 23, but today it announced the rescheduling of its plenary resumption. A notice of postponement of resumption by the clerk of the Senate, Chinedu Akubueze, said lawmakers would also main chambers upon resumption. Both houses moved to the temporary chambers in September 2022 after the commencement of renovation work in the chambers by the Visible Construction Company Nigeria Limited in July 2022. Still to come, European Union agrees to expand sanctions on Iranian producers of drones and missiles. These are minimal calling away. Well, still there. The global scene is next as we join our World News Desk.
The EU has agreed to expand sanctions on Iranian producers of drones and missiles following Tehran's unprecedented attack on Israel. European Union Council President Charles Michel has said it was very important to do everything to isolate Iran. The bloc already has multiple sanctions in place against Iran, including for selling drones to Russia for use in its war against Ukraine. The US has hinted it will impose its own new penalties in the coming days. The EU's new sanctions were agreed during a summit in Brussels, which marked the first meeting between the bloc's 27 leaders since Iran's direct assault on Israel on Saturday, involving more than 300 missiles and drones fired from Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, which were mostly downed by Israel and its allies.
This attack launched by Iran against Israel, we have decided to put in place sanctions against Iran. It's a clear signal that we want to send. And we also want to do everything to protect the civilians. Each civilian life matters. We call on the release without any conditions of all hostages. We called on a ceasefire.
Tehran had maintained it was retaliation for a presumed Israeli airstrike on its consulate in Syria on April 1, in which 13 people were killed. Israel, which appears to have only countered with a diplomatic offensive so far, has not ruled out a response. But world leaders have continued to urge restraints in a bid to prevent a wider conflict in the Middle East. Ukraine's Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal has told the media there would be a third world war if Ukraine loses its conflict with Russia, as he urged the U.S. Congress to pass a long-stalled foreign aid bill. Mr. Denis Shmyhal expressed careful optimism that U.S. lawmakers would pass the hotly contested measures, which has $61 billion earmarked for Kyiv. Last year, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that if Russia won the conflict, it could next invade Poland, triggering World War III. But Kremlin officials have ridiculed such claims as Western scaremongering. Last month, President Vladimir Putin dismissed suggestions that Russia might one day attack Eastern Europe as complete nonsense. Mr. Shmyhal said that disinformation and propaganda had influenced many people in the United States and Europe as well as in Ukraine. President Joe Biden said in a statement yesterday that he would sign the package into law immediately it was passed by Congress to send a message to the world. 4 former senior Malawi officials have been banned from entering the U.S. over corruption allegations. They include former police chief George Kaija, former Solicitor General and Secretary of Justice Raynek Matemba, former Director of Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets John Suzy Banda, and former Police Service Attorney Mwambi Kaluba. The 4 were designated by the State Department as generally ineligible for entry into the United States due to their involvement in significant corruption. Mr. Matemba is also the immediate former head of Malawi Anti-Corruption Bureau. The ban also extends to the spouses of the ex-officials. The statement released yesterday said the banned officials abused their public positions by accepting bribes and other articles of value from a private business person in exchange for awarding a government procurement contract for the Malawi Police Service. The former officials are also facing charges in Malawi after they were named on a list of more than 80 prominent Malawians accused by the anti-graft body of having corrupt dealings with the British businessman Zunet Sata. All 4 and Mr. Sata deny any wrongdoing.
And from the global scene, we'll go straight to the business world as we join our business news desk for happenings in the business sector.
said the Apex Bank is not defending the Naira with the nation's foreign reserves. Mr. Cardoso said the recent decline in Nigeria's foreign reserves corresponding with massive appreciation of the Naira in the forex exchange market, fueling speculation that the Apex Bank pumped forex into the market to dwarf demand pressure and shore up the value of the local currency. Speaking at the ongoing spring meeting of the IMF, the World Bank, the CBN governor said his team at the Apex Bank is determined to nurse a foreign exchange market ruled by the principle of willing buyers, willing seller. He said that ways and means federal government borrowing from CBN is no longer an issue, particularly after the fiscal authorities securitized the outstanding. Mr. Cardoso also said that his team is cooperating with the fiscal authorities and that ways and means was no longer an issue. The World Bank Group and the African Development Bank, AFDB, had been committed to providing energy access to 250 people in Africa by 2030. Both the World Bank President, Ajay Banga, and the AFDB President, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, made a pledge during the Energizing Africa event at the ongoing spring meeting of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in Washington, D.C., USA. Meanwhile, Mr. Adesina said no economy could industrialize in the dark, saying Africa is where the global energy battle will be won or lost. He said that electricity supply remained the most important factor in the quest to industrialize the continent. According to him, no economy can be competitive without energy. Dr. Akinwumi said that the abnormality of lack of power in Africa had been taken by some people as normal, but that it was an aberration. He said that many Africans have taken lack of electricity as normal, but added, however, that every resources must be deployed to change the narrative. The Nigerian Shippers Council, NSC, has said that the e-registration of the regulated port service providers and users of the council will not only curb faceless operators, but will also serve as a security tool to the government. The council said that only 185 port service operators and users have so far registered, noting that it will begin enforcement of law from the fourth quarter of the year. Speaking at the sensitization workshop for stakeholders in Lagos, the Executive Secretary, CEO of the NSC, Mr. Pius Akuta, said with the registration of all service providers and users, the worrisome issue of people hiding at the background to partake in illegal activities, as is the case presently, will be controlled as all operators will become identifiable. Mr. Akuta, who was represented by the Director, Consumer Services of the Council, Kajetan Ago, also explained that port service operators and users who have registered with the NSC will be availed with relevant information to aid their operation. According to him, the Council will continue the sensitization of stakeholders on the need for registration, but the enforcement of the law will include closure of the Office of Unregistered Operators. Deputy Director, Consumer Services, Celestine Akunjobi, said only 185 port service providers and users have so far registered.
As the governing board of the Delta State Oil Producing Areas Development Commission convened for its April board meeting at the Senator Okowa Towers, the headquarters, Warri South Local Government Area, the board has unanimously approved the immediate reinstatement of 14 staff members. Speaking to newsmen at the conclusion of the board meeting, Chief Festus Ochodogo, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the SUPADEC, shed light on the decision, explaining that the 14 staff members had faced unresolved issues during the tenure of the previous board, which was subsequently dissolved. He added that the current board was committed to addressing the challenges and concerns faced by these employees. Chief Ochodogo also revealed that the board was embarking on a comprehensive project inspection tour, an initiative aimed at assessing the status of ongoing projects and identifying those that were ready for commissioning.
Commission. So we discussed generally about the welfare and also approve the reinstatement of 14 staffs that had problem in the previous board, but the board could not meet to approve their reinstatement. So the board met today and approved the reinstatement of those 14 staff. And that is one. We are also looking into the staff welfare in terms of condition of service, which is still ongoing. You are aware of the ongoing audit that is taking place. All these ones are mechanisms that board is putting in place to ensure that things are properly done.
He said the move underscored the SUPADEC's dedication to efficient project management and community development. Chief Aderogo stressed that the restatement of the staff members and the proactive approach to project oversight signaled a new chapter for the SUPADEC, emphasizing transparency, accountability, and employee welfare. And now sports. English Premier side Chelsea has revealed that it had cooled interest in Super Eagles talisman Victor Osimhen after switching sides to Lille Metropole striker Jonathan David. Chelsea, who had been in the forefront for the signature of Osimhen, had decided to look elsewhere following the striker's huge asking price, which had become a problem for the Blues of London. The club has now decided a cheaper option, with David fitting the bill for Mauricio Pochettino's side, which is keen on boosting the attack ahead of the 2024-25 season following an indifferent performance in the ongoing season. Meanwhile, French giants Paris Saint-Germain has emerged as the likely abode for the Bully striker after the French giants revealed that it was willing to pay Osimhen's buyout fee from Napoli as his talisman Kylian Mbappe will be leaving for Spanish giants Real Madrid at the end of the ongoing season. Osimhen's buyout clause puts his price at 150 million euros and makes him the fourth player with the highest buyout clause behind the trio of Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, and Jude Bellingham, who are rated at 180 million euros each. Nigeria will host the Davis Cup qualifying championship in July after being announced as the host for the Davis Cup Group 3 qualifying matches. The president of the Nigerian Tennis Federation, Mr. Ifedayo Akindoju, who revealed this in Abuja, said that the country's performance at last year's edition in Rwanda led to the nation's selection by the African body. Nigeria's tennis stars David Ekpenyong, Uche Okparaoji, Wilson Ibenovia, Peter Lawal, and Christopher Bullius were in superb form as they led Nigeria to qualify to Group 3, with coach Benson Isicheli being that helm of affairs. The qualification will hold in Abuja from July 15, with Nigeria facing Namibia, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Cote d'Ivoire, and Benin Republic. Confirming the nation's hosting of the Davis Cup, the secretary of the Nigerian Tennis Federation, Makba Aliyu, said the federation had received a letter from the International Tennis Federation informing the federation that it would host the Group 3 of the Davis Cup qualification in July. No fewer than 1,500 athletes and officials are expected to participate in the 19th Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Games taking place from tomorrow, April 21, through Saturday, April 27 at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja. Chairman of the local organizing committee, Dr. Ifenyinwa Mojo Eyes, who disclosed this in Abuja at the press conference heralding the Games, said the Games, which started in 1986 with just 2 oil and gas companies, had made significant progress with 13 companies set to battle it out for medals at this year's edition. The participating companies include the NNPC, Shell, Chevron, Oando, and the Petroleum Training Institute, PTI. According to Dr. Mojo Eyes, the participating companies through the athletes will vie for honors in 13 sports, including football, basketball, volleyball, athletics, golf, chess, table tennis, badminton, squash, Scrabble, tennis, swimming, and 8-ball pool. She explained that the major objective of prominent companies from the oil and gas industry coming together to compete in sporting events was to enhance wellness and ignite productivity within the industry, pointing out that health benefits of sports could not be overemphasized. And our thought for the day: strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Well, that's our package for tonight. But before we go, the highlights. As the governing board of the Delta State Oil Producing Areas Development Commission convened for its April board meeting at the Senator Okowa Towers, the Superdec headquarters, Warri South local government area, the board has unanimously approved the immediate reinstatement of 14 staff members. Speaking to newsmen shortly after the meeting, the managing director and chief executive officer of the Superdec, Chief Festus Ochelogo, explained that the 14 staff members had faced unresolved issues during the tenure of the previous board, which was subsequently dissolved. We also told you that the state government has restated its readiness to collaborate with youths in the state in efforts to put an end to the worrisome incidents of drug abuse in society. Executive Assistant to the Governor on Communications and Chief Executive Officer of the Delta State Orientation Bureau, Dr. Latimer Ogenesiwe, who stated this while playing host to executive members of the Delta State University Medical Students Association in his office in Asaba, said the Borori administration did not take the issue of drug abuse lightly, as it had a damaging effect on the health of youth and negatively impacted the society at large. We brought you the story that the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has directed all computer-based test center owners to arrest any parent found near any of their facilities during the 2024 UTME exercise. The registrar of the board, Professor Isaac Oloyede, who gave the order at a virtual meeting with operators and owners of the CBT centers, said the step was to prevent some parents from intruding into the conduct of the exam and perpetrating all sorts of illegalities. And from abroad, we brought you the story that the EU has agreed to expand sanctions on Iranian producers of drones and missiles following Tehran's unprecedented attack on Israel. Well, thank you for being part of tonight's bulletin. On behalf of the production crew, I am Jude Agweke. Do have a wonderful night rest. Good night.